Hi, hello friends. Welcome to the today's session. Welcome to Unacademy and welcome to my classes. In this session, we are going to learn about three-way handshake protocol and some of the system calls which are using especially to do with TCP and UDP socket communications. Dear friends, before starting the lecture, we will all say our anthem that crack GATE and ESE with India's largest learning platform, none other than Unacademy. Get Plus subscription and access unlimited live and recorded lectures from India's topmost educators. Dear friends, we all know Unacademy has provided a wonderful platform to serve the dedicated students, and the content is developing and developed by top class faculty members. They are all ready to serve you. Just all you need to do is give your valuable admission into an academy, and the rest an academy is taking care of it. And myself is Srinivasrao IS, having more than 15 years of experience in the GATE with the various subjects, also had industry experience in the backend, that is the database side and the systems side, and also had very good certifications in the respective fields. Dear friends, throughout my journey of GATE, I taught in many premium academies with a high success rate, and many of my students got completed their post graduation from India's topmost institutions, IITs, NITs, and central universities, including IIITs. So you also can able to achieve such kind of success just by clearing the prestigious competitive examination like a GATE, having good guidance and tips and shortcuts which are going to be provided by faculty members or educators from an academy. So I'm on behalf of an academy ensures you that you're going to clear your examination just by taking tips and shortcuts, and especially the educator experience will also helpful in order to attempt negative marking question paper like GATE. So utilize this opportunity. Unacademy brought all the dedicated faculty members, higher experienced faculty members, and the premium faculty members onto a single route, and we are all ready to serve you. And because your goal is our goal is Unacademy's goal. Dear friends, to get into an academy, there are two kinds of programs an academy is successfully running. So number one is a plus. So once you become a plus member, then you're going to access live lectures, live sessions, and dedicated lectures, and mock test and mock quizzes. What not? Everything whichever is there in an academy portal, you can successfully use it, because once you become a premium member or a subscriber, you're going to see that unrestricted access. And the other program is Iconic. So in Iconic, you're having, along with your plus program, it is also consist of 1:1 personal coach. So there you are going to see that availability of the faculty member with you in 1:1 form. So a lot of benefits are in Iconic because it is one of the unique program is offering by an academy. Well, my dear friends, what are the subscription prices? The subscription prices are according to this plus course, and these are the subscriptions. So current is first and second and third years can prefer super long term, and 18 months and 12 months can be preferred by second and third and fourth year students. So once you become a super long term member, then you can able to see that multiple number of times from multiple faculty members the lecture is going to be delivered, and you're also going to be get benefited. So this is one of the advantage with the super long term coaching. And the other one is iconic, but while you are using my referral code, you're going to get a maximum concession on the subscription prices. So use my referral code. Apart from concession, you're also going to get guidance from me. So please join under me, then you're going to get a guidance. That guidance will help you a lot, because my 17 years career, so many of my students got settled in higher positions after completion of their post graduation, and many are there, they are all ready to help you just by providing guidance, which is very much useful. Do's and don'ts, you're going to be confident. And the second variety program is iconic. So there also we are having a long term and a super long term subscriptions. So if you use my referral code, then you're going to get a maximized discount. According to iconic, these are the two different subscriptions are there. So current first and second and third year students can prefer, and fourth year students can prefer. So use my referral code and see that you're going to get a maximized discount. Friends, these are the final prices after applying my referral code. My referral code is not only for GATE and ESE, you can share it to anybody. Then I'm going to be their guide, and I'm going to provide my guidance to everyone whoever joined under me. And if you're having still doubts, academic or technically, or subscriptions or programs, whatever it may be, just you reach us by filling the form. Then Academy is going to direct a member who can assist you to clear all your doubts. So Unacademy is successfully running most of the programs, most of the subjects on our YouTube platform. So our YouTube channel is Let's Crack GATE CSE. Subscribe our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon for latest notifications and updates. Use my referral code to get the admission into Unacademy. Dear friends, so on YouTube, as it is a free resources, many things may not be discussed. Just by give your valuable admission into Unacademy, and there you are going to learn different varieties of courses on Plus channel. And the next one is that one of the wonderful sessions on Plus special classes. Special classes help you a lot because many interesting and important things are going to be discussed on special classes, and your regular coursework is going to happen on Plus. So don't miss whenever there is a special class. It is freely available to you along with our YouTube content. So whenever there is a special class, we used to announce you. So immediately attend just by downloading Unacademy Student Learning app, and there you use my code so that you're going to get some kind of interesting points. And dear friends, don't miss any of the special class whenever there is, because it is also free resource. And the Plus program, this regular coursework is only for the paid members or premium members or subscribers. So immediately join into an academy in the program called a plus or in the program called iconic, and see that every special class you are going to be attended. And now we are going to start our TCP connection management. Why TCP? There is a need of the connection management because TCP is connection oriented and it is a secure. So whenever you talk about HTTPS, whenever you talk about HTTP, we all feel that the data which is traversing between client and server is 100% safe and trustable, because the HTTP and HTTPS are working under the layer of your transport layer with the help of famous protocol called TCP. TCP is a reliable and TCP is a connection oriented. It is a following three-way handshake protocol in order to provide reliable services to clients. And TCP can be for full duplex. Therefore, client can able to transmit the data by establishing the connection, and the server also can able to transmit the data by establishing the connection. And both client and server are maintaining two windows, sending window and receiving window either side, because after establishing the connection between client to server, one connection, so client can able to transmit the data. After establishing a connection from server to client, and server can able to transmit the data, because the TCP permitted and it is allowed to you transmit bidirectionally from client to server and server to client. So therefore don't forget that sentences which I spoke now. So one is, after establishing the connection from client to server, client can able to transmit the data, and after establishing the connection from server to client, and a server can able to transmit the data upon the request either side. And TCP connections are not physical, because physical transmission is ultimately done by your last layer, that is a physical layer, which is the interface to your medium. So it is going to establish a virtual connection. That's why it is not the physical connection. And whenever you try to transmit data on transport layer, especially using a TCP, your data transmission is in the form of always segment, either from client to server or from server to client. It is going to be in the form of what? Segments only. That's why, my dear friend, whenever we talk about the segment, and every segment is going to be given a unique sequence number, you don't forget that, because sequence numbers are allocated to your segments so that either side party can able to identify them and recognize them uniquely. Now let us see some of the important points. These are all the important points where you're going to expect a 1 mark question. Surely 1 mark question in TCP connection management without any doubt. So what is the first point? It is a connection oriented and it is a following a virtual path, and all the segments belongs to a message are sent via virtual path only. So last before classes I said about there is a concept virtual connection. So what is the meaning of virtual connection? When internet layer is associating with the TCP, then you can call it as virtual circuit. So TCP uses the services of IP. Actually, IP is a connectionless. We already learned and I already shown you. IP is a connectionless, which is an unreliable medium. But I want to make it to a reliable medium just by using a concept of what? If I am using IP with TCP, then it is going to be what? Connection oriented. And you see that your connectionless is I am taking in the form of what? Connection oriented. So if IP would like to access purely connectionless, then you can able to pass on your services to UDP. So here to here it's reliable, and here to here it is unreliable because it's a connectionless, and this is a connection oriented. And TCP operates at higher level. Now, what is the meaning of establishing a connection? The meaning of establishing a connection is nothing but, first of all, we are going to see that connection to be established before transmission of your data. Once data transmission is done, then you have to close your connection. So connection establishment and connection termination following three-way handshake. Why not two-way handshake? Actually, your establishment of the connection and your connection termination, I can follow two-way handshake. Earlier, we used to have two-way handshake. What is the problem with the two-way handshake? Very, very important question. The problem with the two-way handshake is two-army problem. So after identifying this two-army problem, they understand that we need to go for the better protocol or a mechanism that is called three-way handshake. So three-way handshake is nothing but three segments are exchanged. Two-way handshake is nothing but two segments are exchanged. But two-way handshake is outdated because of two-army problem. But three-way handshake is wonderful because three segments are being exchanged between your client and server. So now let us see how you can able to establish the connection, how you can able to terminate the connection using three-way handshake protocol. So whenever you are talking about nowadays real-time data transfer, online money transferring, and you see that fee payment and any bank transactions, any stock exchange transactions, they are completely using three-way handshake. That means you want to transmit any data from either client to server or server to client. First of all, before you transmission of your data, you supposed to have three-way handshake exchange. Then here also three-way handshake exchange. So here 1:1 connection from client to server and 1:1 connection from server to client. So after establishing the connections only, your data segments can be exchanged between both the parties. After that, again, whoever started establishing the connection, naturally, they are going to issue connection termination. So I can call it that. Your connection establishment is a sign-in process. Your connection termination is nothing but sign-out process. So your email activity is one of the example of three-way handshake protocol. And here also, so server to client, one connection is established. So you need to close this connection. Therefore, whoever established the connection, they are going to give you what? Your termination. So this is the establishment both sides, and this is the establishment. This is the termination at both sides. Clear? So I have given here two connections. One is between client and server. The other one is between server and client. Now, let us see. Before establishing the connection, I want to share the process how the TCP is going to work. Please observe carefully. So whenever you try to exchange the data exchange you want in the sense, first of all, the sign-in process is to be done. The sign-in process is nothing but some of the system calls are going to be done because it is completely done with the socket programming only. So some of the system calls are used for sign in and some of the system calls are used for sign out. So this is the compulsory question in the examination. What are the different types of system calls we use while establishing the connection, and what are the types of system calls we use while doing what? Termination and data transfer. Now let us check out sequence of system calls which we are using especially in TCP socket programming. The system calls what you are using in TCP socket programming is different from the system calls which we are using in UDP socket programming, because TCP socket programming is a connection oriented and UDP socket programming is connectionless. So what are the differences? We will learn in the continuous lecture. So whenever you want to exchange the data, please understand. Whenever you want to exchange the data, I am talking from client perspective to server. So client, first of all, a request. This request segment is called connection request TPDU, request TPDU. What is TPDU? Transport layer protocol data unit, which is nothing but a segment only. So whenever server, first of all, before accepting your request, so first they need to understand that they are working with the socket programming, right? So to this request, I have to give you acknowledgement. Then the client is authenticating that perfect the connection is established. So in order to do with this, there are some sequence of system calls I'm going to write. Observe. There is a client and there is a server. First of all, they are going to interact with that socket. So both people are trying to probe each other that I am sensing you with a socket, because TCP module of sender and TCP module of receiver is going to deal with socket address only. So soon after that, the server is going to see that it is trying to get some kind of a request from the client. Therefore, first of all, client has to give you connect system call. When client provides a connect system call, so he is giving you a request to it. Then what the server is going to do? Server is going to do binding. Then server is going to do listen. Then server is going to do accept. So unless these four statements are done, you cannot able to establish any kind of a connection, and the client is not permitted to transmit any kind of data. That's why in real-time data transmission, first domain searching will happen, then connection is established, then data request and data transfer, data reply. So we are worrying about now how you can able to do the first phase in the TCP to transmit your data. That is nothing but connection establishment. So first client has to give you connect system call, then server is trying to bind, then listen, then accept. Once you got the approval from other party, then your connection got accepted. Right now you are under block. Why you are under block? Because you give me a request, the server and it has to process. Unless and until you got accept, you cannot do anything else according to my server. Therefore, what will happen? Soon after you get the accept system call, then simply you're released from blocking state. Now you're unblocked. Then what will happen? The client now asking that I want some data, data request. Then you want to place a data request onto the medium, you need to give right system call. And this write request, as you pushed from TCP module to other TCP module, then the server is going to take your read request and it is going to read that what you are asking. So read system call will happen. Then after that, the server is going to reply whatever the data you requested. Now it is going to reply against your request. This is called data reply. So you want to give some kind of writing, then the server is going to give you write system call. Then the client will perform the read, because whatever the data is being placed by the server module, after receiving it, you perform a read action. This is how write and read system calls are exchanged on the request of data and request of data reply. This is done bidirectionally between client and server after establishing the connection. Now you see this particular point, whichever I am talking, this area and this area is only for what? Data. So first one, we already completed sign in process. Then the data phase has come. This is your data phase. This is your connection establishment phase. Connection establishment phase. So after your data transmission is done, we want to do sign out. Therefore, the third phase has introduced. This is the second phase. The third phase is nothing but connection termination. So by default, whoever is requested, he has to give you a connection request also. And what will happen? The client is sending a segment called a disconnection request. First of all, he started with a connection request and now he is continuing with a disconnection request. Server, listen your request. Upon your request, I am going to do what? Disconnected. So once disconnected, then you close your window just by giving a reply that the server got closed the connection. So this is how you talk about three phases in order to transmit your data via TCP module of one and two TCP module of others. Now we will see what a listen will do, what accept will do, what a bind will do. So when you talk about a listen function is going to see that your unconnected socket, it convert into a passive socket. It indicates that the kernel can able to accept the incoming connection which is coming. So that's what the meaning of a listen. A listening for connections upon the request by other party. So right now it is under unconnected socket. Now it is trying to put it into what? Passive socket. And what is the accept function? Once the connection is established, we want to alert to the other party that connection got accepted so that the server can able to listen some other connections, because you are going to be unblocked and yourself also can able to go and request to some other servers, because nowadays you can able to perform multitasking operating system. That means Gmail activity I can do. What is the meaning of Gmail activity? The client is sending a request that SMTP activity. SMTP by default uses TCP. This is the first, the connection got established between your corresponding mail server with you. And immediately the client would like to go for one more connection. What is that connection? This time I want to go for FTP. FTP is also based on TCP. And the client would like to go for establishing the connection with HTTP. HTTP is also going to work with the TCP, nothing but browsing. This is for browsing, surfing, and this is for downloading and uploading, and this is for mail transmission. Okay. Likewise, client can able to go for multiple connections, no doubt, and the server also can able to accept multiple requests from multiple clients. Now, I would like to talk about that SMTP server, which I am talking, for example, Gmail concern. So here what is going to happen? It can serve to client 1 because many clients I can perform. It can serve to client 2 and it can also serve to client 3. So what do we understand? Every socket connection is unique. So here I am doing many is to one activity. So many client with a one server. Earlier I performed that one client with many servers. Observe carefully. One client with the SMTP server, same client with the FTP server, same client with the HTTP server. So one is to many and many is to one is possible in TCP. So what is accept function? Accept function is called by TCP server to return the next completed connection from the front of the completed connection queue. Soon after your connection got established, then immediately server is going to look at for somebody else. If connection queue is empty, then it is going to put it into what? A sleep. But naturally, nowadays client servers many times connections are going to request the servers and servers are going to reply. So what is the bind function? Bind function is going to identify the socket address of a client and the socket address of your server. So a bind is going to assign local protocol address to a socket. The protocol address is the combination of two varieties. Whenever I am talking about a socket programming between client and a server, so it is going to assign a local address. What is the local address? It is going to interact with the socket address, which consists of port number plus your IP address. So according to IP address, your port number is always 16-bit. It is not going to be grown. But your IP address, according to your IP address, we are having version 4 and we are having version 6. According to version 4, it is see that 32-bit IP plus 16-bit 4, it is a 48-bit. According to IPv6, I am having 128-bit IP address which is going to be embedded in 32-bit hexadecimal digits. 32-bit hexadecimal digits. Therefore, according to this, you are also going to get 48-bit address. Here also we are going to see 48-bit address. So that's what is the meaning of what? Binding between client and server. Now, what is the process of three-way handshaking? The process of three-way handshaking is nothing but the process starts with a server and the server is broadcasting about itself that I am ready. If the server is not ready, you cannot able to give you any kind of request. That's why your domain must be first of all searched. If it is ready to accept the connection, then the client can able to give you the request. Otherwise, you will get an error that page not found or domain not found. So the server program tells its TCP that it is ready to accept the connection. And this request is called passive open. Very important step. This request is called as what? Passive open. Now, so the server TCP is ready to accept the connection from any machine. I said 1 is to many or many is to 1. Now the second step is the client program issues a request to open an active connection. It is called active open. So passive open means the server will tell you the its TCP module that I am ready to accept the connection. If it is not ready to accept the connection, even you give your request, the request is going to be denied. That's why, first of all, it should be a passive open. Upon the request by the client, it is going to be active open. After that, server is going to cross check whether should I able to establish a connection or not by taking binding and listening and accepting. So a client wishes to connect to an open server, tells it that TCP connect is a particular server, and TCP data transmission is a full duplex client versus server connection and a server versus client connection. So in order to perform this, there is a requirement. What is that? So few kinds of control flags we are going to use. So what are the control flags are required in order to establish the connection? Number one, so we are having 6 control flags like UAP, RSF. So we are going to take 3 important flags. One is a synchronization, the other one is a finish, and the other one is a acknowledgement, and the other one is connection reset. So I want to discuss about all these 4 flags in order to do connection establishment and the connection termination. So when I'm talking about the connection establishment first phase, I'm talking about first phase in TCP, that is establishment of the connection establishment phase. I'm talking perspective client to the server. What will happen? So first of all, client will send you a request segment to the server. It's not a normal segment. Please understand. It's not a normal segment. What the client is sending is a connection request segment. Connection request segment. That's why you need to raise a flag S. When you raise a flag S, then server will understand that it's not a normal data segment. It is a connection request segment. So you need to raise a flag called synchronize. S stands for SYN. S stands for SYN, nothing but synchronization of initial sequence numbers between client and server or server and client. So upon receival of your request, then server is going to acknowledge, I have received your connection request and I am trying to establish the connection, and it is going to be informed to the client that acknowledgement. Acknowledgement is also nothing but a what? A segment which is coming from other party upon accepting your data byte or upon accepting your connection request. So this acknowledgement flag, you want to say that it's not a normal data flag, it's not a connection establishment flag, it is a what? Acknowledgement flag. Whenever you say that it is acknowledgement flag, not a normal data flag, then you need to raise a flag. When you raise a flag, then it indicates that what? It is acknowledgement. It's not a data. It's not a data segment. It's not the connection establishment request segment. And this acknowledgement is not giving for your data. This acknowledgement is given for the request of your connection. Therefore, he will say that I am giving acknowledgement only to the perspective of connection establishment, not for the data. So that's why your acknowledgement flag is raised and embedded with your synchronized flag. Then upon request, upon giving acknowledgement by server, then the client is saying that it start acknowledging, right? So there are some numbering of segments is also required. So whenever client is sending, that consists of one segment number, because every segment is going to be identified by segment number we know. So if I'm saying that the segment is taking a M sequence numbers, then the server is going to authenticate, acknowledge with +1 to that M+1. And now the client will give you acknowledgement to your request by using same segment number like M. So here one important point, what is that? While establishing the connection, client consumes one sequence number. Please understand. While establishing the connection, client consumes one sequence number, which is nothing but some number. I am designated here as a what? M. And while giving acknowledgement, same segment number we are going to use. That's why only one kind of segment sequence number we will use while establishing the connection. So now we have learned about two flags, acknowledgement flag and a synchronization flag. Okay, my dear friends. So let us see how this is going to be done. So whenever a client is sending some connection request, first of all, the server is going to do passive open. Passive open means gates are open, therefore client can able to give you a request. So when the client is giving a request, the request is in the form of a segment, and every segment is associated with a header. This header mainly consists of few important fields. First one is for port numbers, second one is for segment sequence number, third one is for acknowledgement number, and fourth one you are having control flags. So 1, 2, 3. Fourth one you are having a control flags. So this segment is being pushed to the server. Upon request by your TPDU, this is a connection establishment request. Now it is start taking a what? Active open. So passive open is a converted to active open. Now let us see, this client has to authenticate your sequence numbers. I'm coming with the 0 range sequence number as 0. And now the server side, it receives a S0 segment, and you see that is this a data segment or this is a connection request segment? The server is in a dilemma. That's why client has to tell you that information, that whether it is a connection establishment segment or a data segment. If it is a connection establishment segment, you need to raise a S flag. So when you raise S flag, now sender understand that S0 is a what? Not a data segment. It is a connection establishment request. It is a connection establishment request. Therefore, the server is going to respond, and it is also going to generate one segment which is in the form of acknowledgement. So now he is releasing a one segment which is a control segment, which is nothing but acknowledgement from server to client. So first word we don't mind, but second and third words and fourth word is also very much important for us. I already shown you in the previous figure that when you give a connection request with M sequence number, then server is going to acknowledge using M+1. So your first segment you received as S0, now is giving acknowledgement by giving you segment sequence number as S1. By S1 plus 1 to your last byte received, it is a 0 byte. Now the segment is to be identified with a number That's why the server assigned that I am giving you some kind of a segment with acknowledgement. So acknowledgement word is a third word. Please recollect your segment header structure. Your third word is a word acknowledgement. So you got S1 acknowledgement number, and you are giving acknowledgement for your connection establishment 1. Therefore, acknowledgement flag is also raised and S flag is also raised. So this is the segment 2 is coming from server to the client. And finally, this complete segment has to be given a number, and these numbers must not be the same range of your client numbers. That's why at the time of establishment of your connection, the both will understand that what the range of the sequence numbers they are going to use. In TCP, data is a bidirectional, so client segment sequence numbers must be different from server segment sequence numbers. So the server understand that you are coming with a S0 range. So I need to change my range. So some other range I am choosing like S30,000. Therefore, the client will understand that server is coming with a 30,000 series next, and the client is coming with S0 and next. And the third segment, please recollect our previous diagram. So this is done and acknowledgement also come. And finally, you are accepting your willingness also. Therefore, this is the first one. This is the second is coming from server to client. And the third, you're supposed to give one segment from client towards to server. First word we don't mind because it is a port number. Second word is a very important. Third word is also very important. And fourth one is also very important. So fourth one, simply I am specifying that I acknowledge you. Yay. And what is the segment number you are using? What is the segment number you are using? I already shown you. Whatever number you have exchanged initially, the same number is used to give the acknowledgement. Therefore, you started with S0 and I am also starting with the what? S0 as my segment sequence number. And you are giving acknowledgement. So acknowledgement is always +1 to your received segment number. So what is the segment number you have received? You have received 30,000 segment number. Therefore, it is going to be +1 to that. Hence, he is going to mention that S30,001. Now, their data is going to be started exchanged. So, during connection establishment phase, three segments are being exchanged between client and server, which is completely, perfectly secure and reliable one, right? So let us see its theoretical points in the TCP three-way handshake process. Point number 1, the client first sends a SYN segment, which is to identify the range of the sequence numbers from client and server because the data can be bidirectional. So this also enables that connection establishment, also enables that segment numbers to be used between two. So you need to raise a SYN flag. And this segment is for synchronization of sequence numbers. So initial sequence number they are trying to exchange. Then afterwards they understand that as a client is chosen S0 and the server is chosen S30,000, then they will understand that +1 numbers they are using and he is also +1 numbers he is using below S30,000 and above your 30,000. And the second step is this segment doesn't contain an acknowledgement number because as it is a first segment, please look at my diagram. As it is a first segment, there is no acknowledged number here. Just it is a segment sequence number with your SYN flag is on. And that SYN segment is not a data segment because it is a control segment. It is not going to carry any data. However, it consumes one sequence number which is for identifying initial sequence numbers ISN. So when data transferring start, your number is going to start from either +1. Your data is going to start with your +1 because already the starting initial sequence number you have consumed in order to establish what? Connection. So the SYN segment carries no real data, but we think that they contain imaginary byte, right? For example, you have used S0 for establishment of the connection. Next time when you want to start transmission of your data, it should be +1 always because already S0 you have used, which consists of 0 byte. Actually, it's not a data. It's a what? Imaginary data. Now this is the concept. First server process is ready to do passive open. Then client is put a request. Then it becomes active open. First S flag segment is being pushed from client to the server. And the server acknowledges as you are coming with the 8000 segment number. So he is giving a request 8000. So server is going to give acknowledgement for +1 to 8000. And I am using a different sequence numbers 15,000. And the same segment S1000 is going to be pushed. But this time your acknowledged number is what? 15,000 plus 1. It is a 15,001 by advertising your window size. Now step 2. What is a step 2? So step 1 is nothing but what? Sending your connection request segment. Step 2 is the server has to give you acknowledgement against your SYN request. So here two flags are on, and this segment has got a dual purpose. One is SYN segment for communication in one direction, and the server uses segment to initialize segment sequence numbers from server to the client. And step 3, so it also acknowledges the receipt of the SYN segment by setting acknowledgement flag. So a SYN segment along with your acknowledgement does not carry any kind of data, but it consumes one sequence number. And third step is it is coming from client as a third segment. This is just acknowledgement segment by advertising what is your window size. Therefore, sender will understand that you are requesting for some data and that's why you are advertising some data. So it acknowledges the second segment which is coming from server. Note that the sequence number in this segment as it is your first request only is the same one in the SYN segment, and the acknowledgement does not consume any sequence numbers. So the client also has to define window size, and some of the real-time implementation in the third itself along with your acknowledgement, the other party can also transmit your data, no doubt. So in this case, the third segment must have a new sequence number showing that byte number of the first byte in the data. If at all you are transmitting any data, for example, let us say S0 I have used and the other guy is responded with something like S30,000. Now immediately I want to start transmission by giving acknowledgement to this. So I'm going to change instead of S0, I'm going to say something like S1 and I'm going to release some data. So this time the third segment can able to have a different sequence number rather than your first sequence number. If you are not having any data, then S0 will be repeated. But usually the third segment does not carry any data, that's why consume no sequence numbers. So Handshake protocol has got two functions. One function is ensures both sides are ready to transmit data, and both ends knows that each other they are ready before transmission actual starts, and it allows both sides to pick the initial sequence numbers to use. And this is one of the very important concept. Whenever you talk about TCP data transmission, so the flags plays very important role. So S flag, against I am using with the A flag. S stands for synchronization. It can be on, it can be off. If I am saying that a segment has come with a 0 0, that means S flag is off and A flag is off, which means the other party, assume client and the server will understand that as it is off and as it is off, it's not a connection request, it's not an acknowledgement, which may be what? A data segment. This is the first flavor. And the second flavor, I am taking another combination. If at all I pass this segment 0 with a 1, so what is the meaning of that? Here sin is off and A is on, which means that it is an acknowledgement for a data. Acknowledgement of recently received data segment. And one more combination is there. When I am sending on and off, what is the meaning of that? S flag is on. When S flag is on, we will understand that it is not a data segment. It is a what? Not acknowledgement segment. It is a what? Connection establishment request. Connection establishment request. And the last combination, what is that? 1 1. What is the meaning of 1 1? Sin is on and A is on. That means what? It is a connection reply. Connection reply, which is nothing but S plus A, which is nothing but yes. So obviously you may get this from other party to yourself. Okay, my dear friends, these are the 4 different options which are there in your TCP data transmission with the different descriptions. Now we know that. So first SYN request. The other party receives SYN request. It sends a synchronized acknowledgement. Then A receives a B SYN acknowledgement. Then host A sends acknowledgement. Host B receives acknowledgement and TCP connection is established. And data transfer phase. Once after the connection got established and bidirectional data transfer can take place, the client and the server can send data and acknowledgements in both the direction. The acknowledgement is a piggybacked with the data. That's what I already told you. What is that? Whenever you are sending some data and your data is associated with TCP segment header, first header will go, followed by data will go. This is your data. And you say that this acknowledgement I am not going to send a separate one. If you are interested, you can also embed your acknowledgement number just by giving A, and you can also send what? Data. That means acknowledgement plus data is pushing together. That's why acknowledgements can be piggybacked, and TCP allows cumulative acknowledgements also. And the last phase is connection termination. So connection termination mainly looking about pin. It's a F flag and acknowledgement from other party. So F is nothing but disconnection request from the client, and A is nothing but acknowledgement flag. F is a finish. So any two parties involved in exchanging data can close the connection. Symmetric way and asymmetric way. In symmetric way, no data loss. Asymmetric way, there may be a data loss. So it is also going to follow three-way handshaking, direct, and three-way handshaking with the half close. This is a full close and this is a half close. So how this is happened, let me show you. So now I'm talking about connection termination. So let us talk perspective from client to server. So client sends a some segment number, for example S100, and he is raising F flag. So what is the meaning of F flag? Server understand that it's not a data segment, it's not a connection establishment segment, it's a disconnect request. Upon the request by the client and the server is ready to disclose you. So it is a disclosing by giving acknowledgement to your S100, and it is not a normal data acknowledgement. It is a what? Disconnection request acknowledgement. Then client can able to close this. This is how it is also following three-way. This is a full close. It's not the off close, it's a full close. And what is the meaning of off close? So off close is nothing but what? Data is transmitted and already fin segment is also got acknowledged. After closing your connection, data has come. That's why there may be a loss of your data, especially in half close. Full close, it's a perfect, but in half close, you are going to lose some data. How it is to be done, I will show you. First, let us understand. So now, first we are going with a fin request from client to the server. So the server receives your fin, then server is acknowledging F with A, and the client has to give you A. That's it. Your connection got closed. So here connection is closed from server to client. Please understand. Here connection is closed from client to server. Last step is client to server connection close. Second step is server to client connection closed. So here also same story. F flag with A flag. 00, which is a data segment. When somebody send a segment which consists of both flags off inside, then it's a data segment. For example, this is off and this is on. So one more segment has come. This is a acknowledgement segment. Acknowledgement segment for a data. And the third permutation is 1 and 0. 1 and 0 means what? F flag is on, which is disconnect request. Disconnect request. And the last combination is a 1 1. F is on as well as A is on. It is a disconnect reply. Disconnect reply segment. Okay, friends. Now let us see how this is going to happen. So disconnection process, I'm telling you, off close and full close, symmetric closing and asymmetric closing, normal closing, abrupt closing. So I want to tell you abrupt closing like this. For example, two persons are talking via mobile or a landline phone, whatever it may be. So they are exchanging some data. Suddenly you drop your receiver. That means somebody is talking, you disconnected yourself by force. And what will happen? His voice is keep on going. Just even though after you are disclose, then his voice is going to be data transmitted in the air. That's what abrupt close or forced closing. So when two persons are talking each other and they said that, okay, bye, good night. So that is what is the meaning of what? They are not going to lose any data because proper words are exchanged before closing your connection. It's called as a word, a safe close and normal close. That's why symmetric and asymmetric I'm calling it as. So when somebody immediately disconnected and the other guy data is being in the air, it is about to come to you, but it will not come to you because already you closed the connection. That's called abruption. So here also I'm calling it as full close and half close. So first, talking from client concern, the TCP client, after receiving a close command from client process, please see that first application layer ready to close the connection that we will intimate to the TCP. Upon receival, the request from your higher level process, it is releasing a segment which is raising F. Then F segment can include the last chunk of data, no problem. If you are sending and you are also asking to disclose, no problem. But individually you can also disclose it without any having any data. A fin segment can include last bytes of data or just a control segment. Either ways, either you can send along with your request or individual fin request. If it is only control segment, it consumes only one sequence number. And what the server TCP is going to do? So already you gave me F. Now it is going to give you A for your F. That means a disconnection reply I am giving. So after receiving a fin segment, it informs its process that the client is ready to close the connection. The server is telling to its application layer that the client is interested to connection. Here client of application layer informed to TCP that I would like to close the connection. So fin and ACK is going to coming from other party to you. And this segment may also consist a last chunk of data. If it is not carrying any data, it consumes only one sequence number. Finally, last, what is that? First flag is F, second flag is A with F, third flag is from client, that is a acknowledgment. So it sends last segment an acknowledgement to confirm the receipt of the fin segment from the TCP server. And this segment contains acknowledgement number, which is a +1 to sequence number of last received byte number from server. And this segment does not carry any kind of sequence numbers. Because whatever number you are using, the same number I am also using. And what is the meaning of half close? Half close is nothing but abrupt close. So the data is going to lost in this. Listen this carefully. In TCP, one end stop sending the data, but other end is continuing sending the data, while other end receiving data is known as a what? Half close. I stop sending the data, but I am going to receive the data from other party. It is under the process. Either the server or client can use half close a request. So it can occur whenever server needs all the data before process can begin. So what is the real-time example? Sorting program. So you can say that telephone connection, how you are going to use it. Otherwise, sorting program also you can do. So this is one of the example for half close. And abrupt close, symmetric and asymmetric close is your telephone connection or mobile call. Listen, first step. When the client sends data to the server to be sorted, so sorting program is happening at server side. and the server needs to receive all the data before sorting can start, right? Within the data transmission from client to server, client issues a FIN request together. So the client, after sending all the data, can close the connection in the client server direction. However, server to client direction must remain open to return the sorted data. That means this, after sending your data, you can close it. I have sent some data and I close the connection. But server side connection is still alive because it has to give you sorted data reply. After that, it is going to close the connection. The server, after receiving the data, still needs a time to sorting. Therefore, its connection must remains open. So this is the concept. First, client is given F request. So server receives data here, data plus F request, sorted data plus F request. Then immediately connection got closed because you have given F request. So I give you acknowledgment to your F request and data request together. So now after that, I need to give you a reply because after sorting of your data, the server has to give you data reply. And after that, the connection got disclosed. Then the client is given a token that yes, it is also closed. So whenever you talk like this, it is a concept of what? Off close. Still your connection closing is on the way. It's not been done because unless and until server process transmitted the data reply to you, otherwise the connection is not going to be disclosed. So that's why two varieties of closing we have learned. So after off closing the connection, data can travel from server to the client and acknowledges can travel from client to the server. The client cannot send any more data to the server because it's got disconnected, and the second segment consumes no sequence numbers. So dear friends, finally, connection establishment is taken three-way handshake, and connection termination is taking three-way with a full close or half close. Also, symmetric closing and asymmetric closing. So, in off close, you may call it as four-way handshake. It is four-way handshake. So that's it, my dear friends. This is how the TCP three-way handshake protocol is providing a reliable connection between client TCP and server TCP. So server and client is going to establish some kind of sequence of system calls. So a sure question on system calls only. What are the system calls? First socket, then connect, order also very important, then bind, then listen, then accept. After acceptancy, you can go for what? Data transmission phase. These are supposed to be followed in the same order. Order cannot be changed. Unless and until you got acceptancy from the server, you are going to be under blocked. Your connection is not established. After acceptancy only, your connection got established successfully, then you can able to transmit the data. There is a one gate question. Socket first line is done, second line connection request done, binding is done, listen also done, but acceptancy is not done. It is going to give you error in this case. Either may be success or maybe a what? Error. This is one of your previous gate question. Last recent year, he asked that what is the order you are using? system calls while establishing the connection. Socket, connect, bind, listen, accept. Okay, friends. So please watch this lecture once again, because normally we seen that exchanging of segments like this, but it is not a true. What is a true? Whenever you are passing a segment, either for data or for connection, you need to send a header. The header carries a many varieties of options, which are flags especially, like S flag, like A flag, like F flag, which is talking a different way. And the last flag is nothing but what? R flag. So we are having UAPRSF. So already FSA we have learned, and urgent we have learned in the last class. And what is the meaning of R flag? R flag is nothing but what? A reset of your established connection. What is the meaning of that? For example, I am doing mailing activity. Otherwise, you are watching a lecture in YouTube, right? So suddenly internet connection gone, or a telephone, one a request. That means what, a call is coming to you. Then what's going to happen? Your YouTube is disturbed. So your call got active. So after talking, then again we are coming to your YouTube to continue the class. It immediately won't come. Please understand. You have to refresh it. You have to refresh it because it is under suspension. So whenever you want to do, then it is a concept of what? Resetting. Instead of re-establishing the connection by exchanging a three segments using a three-way handshake protocol like a S and S and A, it's a completely what dangerous situation. When you re-establish the connection, the previous data is going to be lost. That's why we will use a what? Resetting. When you reset, the previous connection is not going to be disturbed, and your earlier data transmission is also not going to disturb, and the recent data transmission is going to continue. So it is called as a F5 refresh. Otherwise, you also call it as what some people will say that I can go for Control Alt Delete. So this is also one kind of a command where you can able to use a concept of what? Resetting. In Gmail, suddenly your internet connection got lost, then it give you oops error. What is the meaning of oops? Unable to get the connection. So instead of closing the window and reconnecting, simply you do what? F5. So soon after the connection is active, then just you press F5 button. Then F5 is establish your connection and refreshing your buffered data into real time. That's why you may use reset also. So we have learned four important flags, that is resetting, synchronization of connection request, and finish request and acknowledgement. That's it, my dear friends. Stay tuned to Unacademy and stay tuned to my classes. And tomorrow's class is very important. I'm going to discuss a different varieties of questions on transport layer. The timing is sharp 7 p.m. starts it is. So don't miss tomorrow's sessions, practice session on complete transport layer, which consists of previous year questions and some of the questions I designed. Stay tuned to me, and thank you for all your support.